The U.S. military is what some would call the strongest in the world. The U.S. had tried to stay out of 2 world wars, but in the end, we always had to end it. In some events, like Colonia, we even sent a battle force to help the people. The U.S. sends aid to other countries to help them and the people be free. The U.S. military has stood strong and proud.
Some of the stresses I've dealt as a team leader since I've got out here is kind of just dealing with everybody's different personalities, and sometimes there's things out here that stress us out that you wouldn't have never thought would stress you out. And as far as being a team leader goes, you got to kind of help the younger guys out, and sometimes they don't want to do things, and really you don't want to make them do things, but it's for their own personal safety and making sure that they get home to their families. And sometimes it's a demon I got to fight with, as far as making sure I make the right choices for them, so that either they don't get what they want, but at the same time I can try and make them happy, and try and help them see that light, so they're not getting upset and get more irritated, because when they start getting irritated and upset, they don't tend to focus on what they need to do, and really that's what gets you home at the end of the day.
When I found out that I was actually coming off deployment, I was actually on leave with all my friends. I found out that I was going to be a heavy machine gunner. When I heard that news, my heart kind of dropped, because me being in aviation and having to do this job really isn't what I wanted to do. I specifically told my recruiter to not let me do anything like this, but then again I kind of volunteered to do a deployment like this, but not so dangerous. But I'm happy for what I'm doing out here. I feel a sense of pride.
Being out here is alright. Good group of guys. I think the biggest thing is really test your patience with your friends. We're together all the time, and the way the guy next to you brushes his teeth just ends up pissing you off for whatever reason, I don't know. But I think we're learning to get along, and it's a good challenge. It's fun.
I try not to think about getting blown up or IEDs, or oftentimes we hear of people in accidents and things like that, and I try not to dwell on that too much. I try to focus on taking care of the guys, taking care of myself, keeping in touch with the folks back home, because I think if I allowed myself to do that, it would become very overwhelming. So.
The United States Military Academy at West Point, New York, has been training Army officers for 200 years. The C-SPAN school bus visited the academy to find out what changes have been made since September 11th.
The United States Military Academy is celebrating its 200th birthday. Founded in 1802, we have as our mission to educate, train, and inspire our cadets to be commissioned leaders of character. We are about laying the foundation intellectually, professionally, physically, ethically, for service as an Army officer, career of service as an Army officer, and a lifetime of service to the nation. We've been doing this for 200 years, and we expect to be doing it for at least another 200 years.
Colonel, would you please describe what has changed here at the United States Military Academy since the terrorist attacks of September 11th?
Well, the obvious things as a visitor walks around and looks at the military academy, you'll see that there's certainly increased security. Department of Defense installations, we are at a heightened state of security. If you talk to our cadets, I think you'll find that there is a renewed sense of purpose in why they're here and what they're preparing for. Our first-class cadets, our seniors who are preparing to graduate this summer, really have a more profound sense of where they're going and how they're going to be serving in the immediate future. When you take a look at our academic program, It's important to recognize that the goal for our academic program here at West Point is to help our graduates anticipate and respond effectively to the uncertainties of a changing world. So we like to think here at West Point that we have been doing both of those, that we have anticipated the changes in the national security environment, and then since September of 11th have been responding appropriately. To give you a few examples, in the last several years we did a couple of major curriculum reviews with an eye to improving and enhancing the coverage of the study of foreign cultures, because our Army is globally engaged doing a variety of missions across the spectrum of military operations, and because America's Army is more diverse. So we wanted our cadets to make sure that as officers they understood the world in which they were going to serve and the soldiers that they were going to lead. We are a high-tech Army, so we've increased our study of information technology. We have, for an example, begun to teach a couple of courses in cyber warfare and information assurance, and we are, at this moment, the only undergraduate institution that's a certified educational institution in information assurance, how to protect our information infrastructure. So we've done a number of things to anticipate the changing world situation in terms of the curriculum, in terms of the way in which we are teaching cadets and helping them to become curious, creative, self-directed lifelong learners. Done a number of things since September 11th to sort of fine-tune what it is we're doing. Obviously, in the days following the attack on the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and the downing of the plane outside of Pittsburgh, faculty members responded appropriately with relevant discussions in their courses to the kinds of things that we were facing.
Retired Colonel Robert McGinnis right now is Vice President for National Security and Foreign Policy at the Family Research Council in the service. He was an instructor at the U.S. Army Infantry School. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you, Lou.
In a number of the stories that we've seen about former Senator Bob Kerrey recently in Vietnam, there have been these references to the rules of engagement. What's that talking about?
Well, every war you're involved in, Lou, you're going to, especially in certain scenarios, dictate to your soldiers what they can and cannot engage. In other words, in Vietnam, in Senator Kerry's situation, if anybody fires on you, you fire back. Or even more egregious, I think, is that if you see someone in a particular area, you don't even have to identify them. You can engage them, and that's more what we call a free fire zone. But in Kosovo today, for instance, you have a fairly restrictive rules of engagement. You actually have to see someone firing at you. You can identify who they are, and then you can fire back. And so, you modify the rules of engagement in terms of who is vulnerable. Is there civilian population there? Are they likely to become engaged in or hurt as a result of this fire exchange? And of course, it becomes more complex when you have jets moving over. And can you identify that jet? Are you sure that it's an enemy jet? Or do you have to wait until it actually is strafing or bombing your position before you can fire back with your air defense weapons? So it really is dictated by the higher headquarters and passed down in terms of the types of weapons, in terms of exactly what you have to identify, and so forth.